How's it going? Right now I'm sitting at my desk, got my vise and a bunch of materials set up because I'm getting ready to tie up one of my favorite nymphs that I just recently learned how to tie and recently started fishing with, and it's basically one of these right here. Found it at a fly shop a while back, and it's really a pretty looking fly or nymph, and I'll try and get some better shots on the close-up lens, and that way you can get a better idea of how this nymph looks. But basically I got a box full of nymphs that I've been tying, and I'm just kind of working on that. I've just got a bunch of materials and hooks that I want to just run through and get it out of the way, because no point in just sitting in here without, you know, not being tied or not being used, right? So be able to fill up my fly box and use it out in the river, give them to people, you know, whatever the case may be. So let's get to it. I'm going to tie up what I like to call a Kessler's Iggy Cream, and I found it at a fly shop in Mammoth, California. I think it's called the Trout Fitter shop in Mammoth, California. So whoever tied this fly originally, I just want to give you a shout out because it works really well for me and it's fun to tie. So let's get to it. Here you guys can see the fly in its final form, or the nymph I should say, the Kessler's Iggy Cream. So yeah, there it is. It's tan and purple with a nice tailing. I use like a saltwater marabou. So we're going to take this old fly off, and what we're going to be using today is some size 16 Caddis Pupa hooks. I don't think these are actually a size 16. They're probably a little bit closer to like a 14 in comparison to some of the other hooks that I've seen out there. And then we're also going to use some of these Round Rocks brass beads in a copper color, using a 3.2 millimeter size. A lot of people recommend tungsten. It sinks faster. However, this is all I could find at my nearest store. So this is what we're using. I like the color, the copper color. So yeah, we're just going to take this bead, put it right through our hook. It's pretty small, you probably can't see. But once I get the hook on, put our bead, put it on the vise, and there we go. So we're going to be using some, see if I can't get it far enough away, some Semperfly. It's a classic 8/0 thread, and it's in a color 10. So we're just going to put a couple wraps on here, working backwards on the hook and then forward to give ourselves a nice thread base. Locks it in when you work it back against itself. So once we got that on, we're going to use some, see if I can't get it in focus. We're going to use some UTC copper wire in a size small. And what we're going to do is take the wire and insert it through the bead. You'll see it sticking out through the front there. Right? I've already wrapped a couple loose threads. Just pull it back enough just to where it's hiding behind, you know, like the piece that you put on is behind the bead or behind the hook, or you know what I mean, so we're just going to work that on, go a third of the way and work backwards to build up a nice tapered body. So work, I'm going to build up the beginning of the nymph right behind the head. We want to give it a nice thread base, nice and thick, and then once again working back another third and just giving it another wrap back towards the front, tapered. Then we're just going to take it one more time pulling the wire down. We don't want the wire to stick up, or I don't want it to stick up at least when I tie these. And then we're already getting to the bend of the hook. I like to go right when it starts to bend, work it back one more time. Probably excess, but gives it a nice body, tapered body. Just be careful when you're wrapping it back. When you're using a hook shank like this, or a hook like this, the hook wants to curve back up. As you can see, the shank of the hook wants to curve back up towards the bead, I guess I could say. So when you're doing these threads about halfway, you got to be careful because you might nick your thread on the hook, the shank of the hook, and so you don't want it to rip your thread. So from there, what I'm going to use is some of this Seal Sparkle Dubbing. I'm not going to use a whole lot, but what I'm going to do is build a nice noodle on my thread. Maybe 3 or 4 inch noodle. Try to make it tapered towards the top because I don't want the back of the nymph to be so thick, because I want it to be tapered like we're talking about. So give it a couple wraps there, and then sometimes I struggle with the dubbing. I'll find myself like twisting it as I'm doing the wraps just to make sure the dubbing is on there nice and tight, or to adjust how much you want to put down, because like right now I want to put more on as opposed towards the back, because I want to build up a little bit of a body here. So we're just kind of work it on. I'm running out, which is okay. So I'm just going to work a little bit more towards the front, and it does get kind of messy, but what I like to do is come back right now before you do anything else. Just start trimming off whatever you don't like, because sometimes it gets messy later and you don't want to deal with all of it. So you could also probably do a tighter dub noodle and you probably wouldn't have this issue, but so once we're at that point, there's 2 different steps that you can take. What I like to do at this point is to take some of the polar flash and just cut off. You'll see how this stuff looks. I'll just cut off like a 1-inch piece, and what I'll do from there is cut it to a point to create a tail. So literally just cutting it to a point right there. Let's see. So yeah, you probably can't see it, but just cut it to a tip, like a point, like a tip, and then I like to hold it on there and give 2 loose wraps right behind the bead, and then the loose wraps so you can still adjust it. And from there, what I like to do is start my wire over the top of my flash and just get it started. That way the flash isn't going anywhere, and you can see I'm just building it up. And so what I'll do from here is put that off to the side, and now that my wraps are nice and tight on the flash, I'm going to cut off the little piece there, and we're going to take just a tiny bit of some purple or pink. This is just UV2 ice dub in purple, and so I just take a very, very small amount. You might not even be able to see how much this is. This is too much as it is, so what I'll do is I'll just pull off a bunch, and then I'll just get enough to just create a little bit of a purple like a hot spot almost, a thorax right behind the bead. And then from there, I'm working the copper wire once more back over my thorax, and I'll just wrap it like that. That way we'll helicopter off the thread. And from there, I'll do another quick trimming just to clean up right behind the head of this bead, because I want to do a whip finish. But I want it to be nice and pretty before I do anything. So there we go. As you can see, we got it all nice and cleaned up. I'm going to take my whip finisher, and bear with me here because I suck at this. Four turns, call that good. Should be good right there, yeah. Turn that off. And as you can see, we're just about complete. If I want to, I could do another tiny trimming. Just get some of those loose ones. Some people like it to be a little messy, it looks a little more buggy. But from there, I'm just going to take some of this Sally Hansen, it's like a top coat, strengthening top coat. Seen it online, recommended. I haven't been able to find anything else that